Honoring me, and good morning to all of you. I am primarily my prime interest in calcium disorders, but then this is the first time Dr. Bajaj made me interested in endocrinology of sleep disorders. So I am finding it really interesting and getting excited also. The job is to find out what are the endocrine considerations involved in obstructive sleep apnea. Endocrine disorders can give rise to obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea can give rise to endocrine disorders. And there are certain disorders where we do not know whether it is the OSA which gives rise to endocrine disorder or endocrine disorder which has given OSA. For example, diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. This part has been covered by Dr. Vijayan very well. This part also how the mechanism, what is the mechanism of obstructive sleep apnea and how these are affected. Because in endocrine disorders, many of these are affected. What is the primary role of hormone in the pathogenesis of obstructive sleep apnea? It's not very clear, but the literature tells us because obstructive sleep apnea is more common in males, and that too in the middle age group. Post-menopause, females are also affected by obstructive sleep apnea. So taking this point in view, testosterone has some role in the pathogenesis of obstructive sleep apnea. Testosterone replacement can trigger OSA. PCOD patients, polycystic ovarian disease patients who have some hyperandrogenism, they also have higher prevalence of obstructive sleep apnea. These three facts points towards a role of testosterone in the pathogenesis of obstructive sleep apnea. However, there are points against also. In patients, in volunteers with obstructive sleep apnea who were given androgen blockade, there was not much of improvement in the AHI index. Second hormone which might have some role in the pathogenesis of obstructive sleep apnea is melatonin. Normally there is a peak of melatonin at 2 a.m. in the night, and this peak is less and delayed in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. It occurs at 6 a.m. in the morning in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. As you all know, there is a circadian rhythm controlled by suprachiasmatic nuclei, and melatonin secretion is a free running rhythm. It is primarily determined by a circadian rhythm, not by the environment or by biological day or night. So it is primarily determined by circadian rhythm, and if we are finding alteration in sleep, then it is the abnormality in the circadian rhythm giving rise to alteration in melatonin and melatonin-induced sleep disturbances. Levels are not increased after CPAP treatment. This further indicates that melatonin has a primary role, and it is unlikely to be corrected by the therapy for obstructive sleep apnea, which are not directed towards melatonin. There is a lot of data on hypogonadism in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. It is common in males. There are several studies where you will find total testosterone low. Can give rise to erectile dysfunction as mentioned by Dr. Vijayan and yesterday pointed out by Dr. Bajaj. CPAP therapy may improve total testosterone. Females patients with obstructive sleep apnea, they have lower testosterone. So hypogonadism is seen in males as well as in females. More common in males because obstructive sleep apnea is more common seen in males. But there is a catch in this. When you measure serum total testosterone, it is not the free testosterone which you are measuring. It's difficult to measure free testosterone. There are not good assays for free testosterone, just like for free T4 there are no good assays. Similarly for free T4 or free estradiol there are no good assays. What you measure is the indices of free testosterone by measuring sex hormone binding globulin. And there are several confounding factors which can change sex hormone binding globulin. For example, obesity itself bring down the sex hormone binding globulin. So total testosterone, 80% of which is bind to serum hormone binding globulin, is likely to be low in obesity if SHBG is low because of obesity. So you may get false results in obstructive sleep apnea if you just measure total testosterone or if you don't adjust with sex hormone binding globulin. That also is not accurate because after all it's a derived index based on statistics. So we need to have a data based on free testosterone in obstructive sleep apnea before we can comfortably say that it's low in patients with OSA. For example, if you see this study which came in JCM, one of our good journal, which showed that none of the this is a large study, large number of patients, they were divided into quartiles based on their serum testosterone levels. None of the indices of obstructive sleep apnea, as you see in the first column, they were different in different quartiles. Trend was same for all of them. So there is some confusion with regard to the exact levels of testosterone, whether free testosterone levels are low or not. I will come to this point subsequently also. The erectile dysfunction which you see may not be totally because of hypogonadism. There are several other reasons which can give rise to erectile dysfunction. For example, disturbed sleep itself, anxiety itself can give rise to. After androgen axis, there is some evidence that there is an increased response of HTS to CRH, but cortisol is not impaired. The cortisol levels have been found to be normal in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. Pituitary thyroid axis is absolutely normal in these patients. There is increased brain natriuretic peptide. I'm sorry, this is a BNP, brain natriuretic peptide. This is because of increased intrathoracic negative volume pressure, and this can lead to higher production of brain natriuretic peptide, and they can have polyuria because of that. Because of natriuresis, they can have polyuria, and there are reports that patient with OSA, they get up several times a night for urination. There can be hypertension, as mentioned by Dr. Vijayan. It is associated with increased angiotensin-aldosterone activity, and this per se is because of hypoxia-induced increased sympathetic stimulation. So we have reason to say that hypertension, which we see in obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, it has some endocrine component. CPAP therapy improves hypertension, but it doesn't have much of effect on angiotensin-aldosterone activity. So we do not exactly know what is the primary role of increased aldosterone activity in the genesis of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. Though its manifestations are affected by in forms of hypertension, they are determined by increased sympathetic activity and increased angiotensin-aldosterone activity. Obesity is common in population. Obesity can give us to obstructive sleep apnea syndrome because of the reduction of the upper airways. OSA itself can give rise to obesity because of increased daytime sleepiness and less activity. There is 10% increase in weight gain leads to 32% higher prevalence of AHI, which is the index of OSA. Most of the patients with bariatric who are going for bariatric surgery, they have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So we have to keep this in mind when we treat patients with severe obesity with bariatric surgery. Besides simple obesity, it is the distribution of fat. It's not only BMI, it is the distribution of fat which is important. There is data which correlates presence of OSA with neck circumference, with base circumference. But then that also is not fully accurate. If you adjust body weight with just BMI, that is not accurate. You have to adjust for visceral fat. That also is not accurate because you don't know what is the amount of fat in the pharyngeal tissue. So it's the fat distribution which is important. But when you correlate OSA with obesity, in a normal person also you can have OSA, and that can be because of obesity which is localized in the pharyngeal tissue. So these parts are yet to be studied. We don't know what is the status, and there is no research in this direction. Dr. Vijayan has adequately pointed out what are the mediators to increase oxidative stress. Besides, there are several adipocytokines which are produced from the adipose tissue, and these are the names: leptin, adiponectin, bisphatin. There are studies where people have found alteration in the level of these hormones in patients with OSA. But what is the effect of these hormones after CPAP treatment, or what is the effect on oxidative stress is not known. All these hormones, several of these hormones, they have effect on the interleukin and TNG, which are considered bad for the metabolic syndrome from the insulin resistance point of view. After bariatric surgery, OSA may improve, but not fully. This is because the obesity doesn't completely go out, and it may recur also. There is increased perioperative deaths because of OSA in patients undergoing bariatric surgery. So we have to keep this in mind when we take patients for surgery. There are various disorders, endocrine disorders, which are associated with OSA and which themselves can lead to OSA. For example, type 2 diabetes mellitus. There is plenty of data showing increased prevalence of impaired glucose tolerance or diabetes or poor glycemic control in patient with OSA, with diabetes. Surprisingly, the data is coming which also shows that type 1 diabetes patient who, as they become old, they also develop OSA syndrome. Fatty liver, which is a complication of obesity, has been found to be more. Complication of diabetes, macro and macrovascular complication, there is some data on this, I will come to this. There is some relationship of OSA with glycemic control in diabetes. Effect of treatment on glycemic control, some data but not adequate. For example, if you see this first graph, this is the compilation of several studies in the meta-analysis in 5,000 subjects. This is increased risk, relative risk of diabetes in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. If they had severe obstructive sleep apnea, the risk was 1.63, and if they have mild obstructive sleep apnea, the risk was little less, but it was there. So it correlates with the severity, the presence of diabetes mellitus and impaired glucose tolerance correlates with the severity of and presence of obstructive sleep apnea in these patients. This is the data I was talking about. These are recent data which has come in 2011. 3 times higher prevalence of obstructive sleep apnea in patients with type 1 diabetes when they are old. This is the study done in the older patients with type 1 diabetes. This data which is coming in diabetes, that sleep apnea syndrome can lead to higher 10-year cardiovascular risk in females with diabetes, and it has relationship with insulin resistance and secretion. You consider on these red lines, you see all the parameters. These are data on patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome and the controls diabetic who didn't have. They were matched in terms of age, but the obesity and various parameters of obesity, right from the visceral fat mass, was higher in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. The same table from the same paper shows that plasma insulin level is higher in these patients, indicating insulin resistance. They had higher prevalence of metabolic syndrome. Almost 100% of them had metabolic syndrome. Fatty liver was higher, and the 10-year cardiovascular risk was higher in these patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So diabetes mellitus patient, if they have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, we have to keep in mind that cardiovascular risk is increasing in this patient, and we have to screen them early if they have cardiovascular disease along with diabetes. Third parameter shows that lipid-related parameter. Patients had lower ApoA1, which is considered good for hyperlipidemia. Higher ApoB, the fibrinogen, uric acid were higher in these patients. And now you consider on the testosterone. This is an interesting study. It's a very recent study. You find total testosterone is little low, which is not even significant. But if you see the free testosterone, it is higher in this obstructive sleep apnea syndrome patient. And why this has become, total testosterone is low and free testosterone is higher, this is because of SHBG. SHBG is low in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome who has obesity. So we have to keep in mind that the total testosterone is not the only thing which tells us about the hypogonadism in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. The complications. This data which has come recently in 2012 on complications and obstructive sleep apnea syndrome in patients with diabetes mellitus. You see the albuminuria and site retinopathy, the site-threatening retinopathy. It was higher in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome with diabetes mellitus compared to the matched control. HbA1c was again higher. Of course, there was some point that duration of diabetes was more in this group 9 versus 10, but I am sure they must have adjusted for this in this when they were correlating for this, because this is highly significant. There is data in experimental animal. There is a biological basis for all this. In experimental animal, if they are sleep deprived and they can have increased sympathetic activation, reduced sensitivity, they take more diet during the daytime when they are awake. There is upregulation of nuclear factor kappa B. Hypoxia inducible factor 1 is increased. The treatment of diabetic patient with OSA, with CPAP, there is very limited data, but whatever data has shown is 3-month data, which has not shown any change in the HbA1c. But of course, long-term studies are required before we can conclude anything from this short study. But there is a need for more studies in type 2 diabetes to look for the effect of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome and relationship with the glycemic control. There is data which is coming in polycystic ovarian disease. I had mentioned this earlier that it may be related to the increased testosterone level of these patients. Now I come to the third aspect of the endocrinology which is there in OSA. There are endocrine disorders which are clearly associated with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. There is no doubt about that. And you can see 70% of patients with active acromegaly have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome because of various reasons. They have larger jaw, so tongue can bite protruding in these patients. They have enlarged tongue. There is pharyngeal thickness. Salt retaining effect of growth hormone leads to edema in the pharyngeal wall. Obesity is there. They can be associated with hypothyroidism, central hypothyroidism in acromegaly. There is myopathy of tongue muscles. So it can give rise to reduction in the upper airway space. This is a good diagram which I could get from JCM. If you see, this is a pre-operative MRI of patient with acromegaly, enlarged soft palate, and after therapy it came down. This shows that the acromegaly, obstructive sleep apnea can improve after therapy, but this improvement is not fully because 40% of the patients, they continue to have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome after surgery. So we have to keep in mind that patient with acromegaly, they have higher prevalence of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. For me, it is a common illness because in endocrine day and night we see acromegaly. For you, it may be rare, but so it is important for us that we keep this in mind. Not only excess of growth hormone can give rise to obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, there are data that patients who are growth hormone deficient, and those who are supplemented, those who are getting adequate replacement for all the hormones except growth hormone, they show obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. When they are treated with growth hormone in adequate dose, they show improvement in obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. But when they are over treated, again they show recurrence of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So we have to rightly treat these patients of growth hormone deficiency to take care of their obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. If we undertreat them, then also they can continue to have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. If we overtreat, they can have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome because of growth hormone excess. These are last few slides. 20 to 5, around 1/3 of the patients with hypothyroidism, they can have obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. The prevalence of the obstructive sleep apnea syndrome in hypothyroidism, just like that of normal population, because both are very common, so it is difficult to know whether prevalence of hypothyroidism is increased. But I have told you earlier that whatever studies are there, they have shown no impairment in the hypothyroid axis, the thyroid pituitary axis in patients with obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. So this explains that lesser prevalence of hypothyroidism compared to the 35 prevalence of OSA in hypothyroidism. The presence of goiter is the additional fact which can contribute to OSA. Central apnea because of decreased ventilatory drive, and neuropathy can give rise to obstructive sleep apnea syndrome in hypothyroidism. Treatment is invariably successful, so we should always think of hypothyroidism whenever we are seeing patient with OSA syndrome, and get their T4 and TSH measured and treat them adequately before we make a diagnosis of idiopathic obstructive sleep apnea syndrome or obesity-induced obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. To summarize, there are hormones which has been linked with the pathogenesis of obstructive sleep apnea syndrome, for example, testosterone, melatonin, obesity, and adipokines. They may have independent role, but data is needed for this. Hypogonadism can be seen in both males and females, but more studies required with regard to free hormone before we can conclude. There is impaired CRH response. There is more of ACTH, but it doesn't have any effect in terms of cortisol levels. Prevalence of OSA is high in acromegaly. It is partially reversible. It is fully reversible in hypothyroidism, where there is increased prevalence of OSA. Summary 2. Hypertension, which has some endocrine component, can be seen in these patients. Metabolic syndrome is increased. Type 2 diabetes mellitus is increased. The relationship with hyperglycemia and OSA syndrome is to be investigated, and there is a lot of scope for research for the new generation. Microvascular and macrovascular data is coming up that these complications are also increased. We have to continue with the studies in larger cohort. Insufficient data on the effect of CPAP treatment on HbA1c. In nutshell, patient with diabetes mellitus should be screened or should be assessed for presence of OSA, because many of these complications, they are reversible if you treat OSA properly.